Hey guys, welcome to Win the Day. I am Tanika D'Souza, the 100K Challenge Chick, and every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can find me live streaming this Win the Day. For those of you joining me on the podcast, welcome, and to all of you who are on the YouTube channel. The podcast, if you haven't subscribed, it's 100K, so the number 100K Challenge Chick is the podcast. So you can find it anywhere that you love to listen to podcasts. Today, we're jumping into a topic about your business type. And it's really about the type of idea that you have, where you're starting, why you picked this business idea. And we're going to talk about what that means for you as far as business growth. And by growth for a business, I mean, where's the potential for profit, right? So, what I do want to say is we're going to cover four different business idea types. And what I want you to know up front is none of them are wrong, right? None of them are wrong. You just have to understand what they are, what they mean to the market, and how you can use this to grow your business. So let's dive into what is a business idea first. So, a business idea is when you have a concept that you can use for financial gain that is actually centered on a product or a service that can be offered for money, right? So, that's kind of a complex statement, but what it breaks down to is you have an idea and you can turn it into something that you offer to the market and make money. A lot of people feel like they have business ideas, and when I ask the question, how are you making money with this, they don't have an idea. So today we're going to talk about some of the business ideas, the different types. But what I do want you to hear is not every idea is a business idea. In order for it to be a business idea, there has to be something you offer to the market for money. So some people come to me, they're very passionate about fixing a problem. They have an expertise in something, or they really see a need. However, they don't see what a product or service is that will fill that need that they can also offer for money. So today, that's what we're talking about. Ideas that you can create and charge for. Okay. So if your idea does not fit into this, it is not technically a business idea. And you absolutely can ask me questions about this. We have a Facebook group online where we talk. It's a free group. And that's where we have a lot of business owners who are looking for ways to grow their business. And with me, you're looking for ways to grow it to 100K. So that's the goal over there, and you guys are welcome to join me. So, a business idea, like we said, is you have a concept, you have a product or service based from that concept, and you then can charge for it. So, the four different types, I'm going to introduce them to you, and then we're going to go through all four. But they are fads, trends, stable, and growing. Fed, trend, stable, growing. And you can already hear like some reasons why some are a little more stable long term versus like super exciting and trendy right now. So we're going to break them each down. So, number one, a fad. A fad is a business idea that addresses an immediate problem. So, right now, this is being recorded in 2021, middle of 2021. We are still dealing with a global pandemic, COVID-19, right? So, if you created a business idea that responds to the pandemic, that is going to be considered a fad business idea. And the reason why it's considered a fad is because you're addressing an immediate problem. The market wants whatever you have right now, but we know for sure this is not going to be around forever, right? So in this case, it doesn't mean that what you're creating is bad. There's actually a lot of people who are understanding what the market needs immediately, and they take their product or service to market right away. And because so many people are concerned, this is a problem, this is a global pandemic, right? Because they have those concerns and that immediate need right now, people are jumping in. So, for example, there were a lot of small businesses started that created face masks. So, if you were a tailor, you could jump right into creating face masks. Now, you being a tailor is definitely fitting with something that's more stable. Communities have always had tailors. However, jumping into a market where you can sell face masks because they're required, and at least for several months were required by law. You couldn't enter restaurants, you couldn't enter stores without them. You are meeting an immediate need. As of today, a lot of those bans are lifted, and stores are just kind of picking and choosing whether you need to wear the mask. So if you had masks for sale all of 2020, you could have made really great money. If you are holding on to that as a long-term strategy, I'm not sure in the US that that is something that people are going to do long term. But right now, and definitely last year, it was a really hot topic, right? So the thing with a fad is, if you are new to business, the thing you have to understand is a fad is not going to be here forever. So if you want to take advantage, if you want to take advantage of the fad, you can't test the market. You can't try things for a very long time. You have to jump in, make the money that is to be made at that moment, and then it will be over. Normally, fads are not going to last more than about 2 years, and usually they're much shorter than that, like possibly a season, possibly just 1 year, but definitely not necessarily longer than two. So, the thing about a fad and your growth in your business is you have to understand this is an immediate need and you're addressing it. So this is something people are concerned about today because of a situation that has arrived today, and they want a solution today. This same problem will not be here forever. Therefore, your solution for that problem is not going to be a long-term solution. So just jump right in. I find that fads are a place where new companies can start because there's such a large market demand for solutions that people are willing to try you even if you're new. However, I do watch the experts, people who have been around for a very long time, really make the most out of fads, because they understand, hey, I need to jump all in, invest thousands of marketing dollars, but I'm going to make millions, right? And not necessarily us thinking of the pandemic in a way of like taking advantage of people, but what do people need immediately, right? There was a lot of protective gear that was needed. There was a lot of things that schools needed to sanitize, to partition students, to move things around. Planning had to be done. So many things had to be done. So it's not necessarily like you taking advantage of the sick person, but what I'm saying is there was a huge market of need. So no matter what industry you were in, there was likely some changes that were caused because of this that you could address and have an immediate solution. So fads are things that address an immediate problem. However, it's not going to stick around forever. So if you create a business, if you go to market with a business idea that is a fad, just understand that you have to go all in immediately, and this will not last. Okay? So that's number one, fads. Number two is a trend. This is something that has been around. It's not going to be around forever, but it is lasting longer than a fad, right? So let's think about fashion. Fashion will have the hottest thing of the summer. That is a fad. But then they'll have trends that stay around that kind of mark decades or become iconic with time periods. And that is what you call a trend. So currently, there's a lot of fads. I can't keep up. I do have teenagers and they are all different. So I don't even know what the real fads are right now. But I do know one of the trends is going back to acid wash, right? So they got acid wash jeans, jackets, all these different things. That's likely a trend that's going to last for more than one season. It's already been around for a little bit, but it totally is nostalgic of my childhood because that's what I wore. So that trend was around before and it can come back. And sometimes that is a pattern with trends versus a fad because a fad is going to address an immediate need, right? Once that need is fulfilled or once there is no longer that problem, there's no need for that solution. Whereas a trend is something that comes and goes, possibly. It does last longer than a 1 or 2 year span. It kind of marks a time period and people are really into it. It's hot on the market, but it does have a little more longevity. So you can think of even in most industries, there are things that become very trendy and they last a little longer, but over time they leave and they're replaced with something else until the cycle just keeps going. I remember a few years ago, I guess it was, so it's always been a thing to like clean your face and have facial scrubs and things like that. Well, charcoal was the thing, right? So I think that charcoal stayed around longer than it just being a fad, but there was definitely a time period where it was like, oh, every product line had some like charcoal mask and all that, and it talked all about all the great things it was going to do, and then it stayed. So now they have charcoal masks and charcoal sponges and all these different things for your face, and it's a part of your makeup routine. I don't know that it's going to last forever because I think that it's a trend in that it can easily be replaced with something else. Once they say, oh, well, you were doing this with your skin, now you need to start thinking of this other thing. So it does kind of mark where we are right now. However, I don't think it's going to stay long term or just be what we're about to talk about next, a stable business idea. So we've addressed fads, meeting an immediate need. We've addressed trends, things that kind of mark a time frame, and then we are jumping into stable. As the word denotes, stable, any stable business idea is something that is time tested, proven, and there are lots of stable business models that you can choose from. So things that fall into this category are going to not sound as fun or interesting, but what I want you to understand is you're applying your business concept to this way to bring it to market. So for example, coaching, right? Currently you have an explosion of people who are calling themselves coaches and things like that. They are using their current idea and backing it with something that is stable. You can read books about how to set up a coaching business, what people are expecting from coaching businesses. There's software, there's so many things to support you if you call yourself a coach, that's what lends it to being a more stable business idea. Teaching. People have been doing that forever. And I'm talking about in the sense of business, right? I'm not talking about school teachers, even though obviously that's been around forever too. But you teaching in your business and educating others, there's tons of ways to do that now. So that business model is not going anywhere. It's very stable. However, what you teach, how you teach, is it an e-course? Is it a live class? Those are the pieces that change, but the bottom line of what you chose and your idea is a very stable concept, right? And then investing. Clearly, that's a great way for you to make money. And over time, that has absolutely changed. So I'm going to use investing to really talk about the difference between my last two, which was stable for number 3. And then the final is growing, right? all of us understand investing, right? We understand the stock market. Well, maybe you don't understand every detail of it, but you understand what it is. It's you as an individual or you as a company choosing to take your money and invest it in hopes for returns. But the market does this up, down, up, down. However, investing into stocks is not anything new. We've been doing it in this country for decades, right? So investing into stocks and bonds and things like that is a very stable business concept. However, what is, I'm going to say, newer and definitely going to be stable is foreign exchange. We weren't always doing foreign exchange if you go back in our history. So there it is. You have the stocks that you always knew about. They added in foreign exchange. That pretty much is stable at this point. But then growing is cryptocurrency. Anything that goes in the growing category is something that is definitely more stable than a trend and will likely stick around for a long time. The reason why it's in a growing category and not jumping straight from trend to stable is the fact that how you do it, why you do it, and all the methods around it are still being developed. So with cryptocurrency, people are excited to learn about it. It feels trendy. It's been around for quite a little while at this point. However, it's becoming something that the individual can learn about, can get an app to start trading cryptocurrency, selling cryptocurrency, and learning more about that market. Several years ago, it existed, but it definitely was not on an individual level. So very few people had access. So in a growing market, you're seeing changes in access. You're seeing changes in how user friendly that market is. And those things allow that business idea to grow and flourish over time and become more stable. So, for the things that we talked about today, a fad, trends, a stable business market, and a growing business market, what I want to make sure that I emphasize is none of those are wrong, right? None are wrong. Whatever you are choosing to do, I just want you to open your eyes to what it means for you and the growth of your business. If you're talking about a growing market, then you're saying, I'm in it right now. Everything isn't absolutely stable about it, like how we're trading, what's being traded. There's newer cryptocurrencies that I'm learning about as time goes on. I don't know them all. I don't think most in the market know them all. So things like that, you have to know, okay, this is growing. I have to stay on my toes a little bit for this to work out for me long term. Something that's more stable, has been time tested, been around for quite a long time. And the thing that's great about it is the market, meaning your audience and your clientele, will trust that particular business model. However, it's not like a hot commodity. So you can absolutely set yourself up in a stable business, grow it, but the growth is going to not be as volatile or explosive as something that is a trend or a fad in our market. A trend or a fad affords you the opportunity to latch on to something that is hot, that is current, that everybody is looking for right now. However, it's not going to give you the longevity. So think about it. Where is your business idea? Does it fall into a fad? Does it fall into a trend? Is it a stable business model or is it in a growing market? And I want you to just commit to whatever it is. If it's a fad, I want you to commit to going all in immediately and reaping the benefit of the fad. If it's a trend, I want you to be a little more innovative. How can you take this current trend and give it a little twist that makes you stand out, helps you to receive a good share of the market at the time because people like this certain thing, but you've added your own spin and you can keep that in market for quite a little while. stable, you can build your business, build your website. You're here to stay. This is what you're going to do long term. But because people aren't fighting to get it at this present moment, it's just a stable thing in the community. So you just have to do your marketing, and you have to understand that this is not going anywhere. However, it's also never going to explode for you the way that a trend would. And something that's growing, you have to have a little more patience in growing with growing ideas, because things will change, because what they're trying to do is figure out the best way to stabilize this. How do we fix this? How do we help more people use it? How do we build trust for this particular business idea? So my point to you is to kind of figure out what is your immediate goal and what is your long-term goal, and pick a business idea that will support that. So I appreciate you guys joining me for Win the Day. If you're listening to the podcast or YouTube, there's plenty of other videos and podcasts that you can listen to. And you can also find me online in my Facebook group. So if you're on my business page, which is my name, Tanika D'Souza, you can join me in the group there. Thank you guys for being with me today, and have a great one, and win the day on purpose.